I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Future Signal. On this episode, let's look at how long it will take you to go from 0 to 0.1 Bitcoin if you're DCAing weekly. How long will that take? Now, the episode inspiration here was from episode 15. I'm going to leave that link above if you're watching on YouTube. You can go check that out, where I break down why 99% of people on the planet probably will never have enough money to be able to actually get into 0.1 Bitcoin. And if you're thinking, oh, 0.1 Bitcoin, that's really not a lot. Let's not focus on how much it is or how much it is in fiat terms, or whether you think it's a lot. Focus in on this, and this was from episode 15, that only 4.5 million wallets on the planet hold more than 0.1 Bitcoin. So it is exceedingly scarce across a planet with 8 billion people. And that's if you're also assuming that 4.5 million wallets are owned by 4.5 million people. Many people have multiple wallets with more than 0.1 Bitcoin, so it's a very, very scarce number. On this episode, it's just super simple. How long will this take? If 0.1 Bitcoin is the goal, how long will it take to stack 10 million sats? There's a lot of people in the Bitcoin community that don't even think about Bitcoin as 0.1 Bitcoin anymore. They would see that as 10 million Satoshis or 10 million sats. Remember, each Bitcoin can be broken down into 100 million Satoshis or 100 million pieces that colloquially you can call sats. In order to do this, we're going to look at weekly DCA amounts of $250, $100, $50, and $10. Going back to the ice cream truck analogy that I had in episode 15, it goes as such. Bitcoin is running away from you. If you're trying to stack Bitcoin, it is always moving away from you like an ice cream truck. And the analogy I had in episode 15 that actually resonated with a good amount of people, there were comments on YouTube as well as friends who reached out and like, hey, that was a good way of thinking it. Bitcoin, trying to, amass Bitcoin, whether it's 0.1, you want 1 Bitcoin, you want more than that, is like trying to catch an ice cream truck. If the ice cream truck is 100 yards away when you start running and it's already going at 12 miles per hour, and every 100 yards after that, it's going to speed up by 1 mile per hour. 12 miles per hour is already running a 5-minute mile. There are very few people that can run a 5-minute mile in this world. So you get the analogy that it's very difficult to kind of be able to get 0.1 Bitcoin. Let's move forward and figure out how long it's going to take. In order to do this, we have to create some assumptions. So I'm going to read through these assumptions. Bitcoin price is going to start at 90K. I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this, so I have no idea what the price will be, but right now the price is a little bit under 90,000. So I chose 90,000 to make this video, but we're going to assume that Bitcoin price starts at 90,000 and remains there for the rest of 2025. I realize that's ridiculous. We're also going to start investing on March 1st, 2025. That's the date that we're going to say we're going to start investing in this super hypothetical to talk about how long it's going to take to DCA to get 0.1 Bitcoin. We're also going to say the price increases annually at 30%. This is a number that came from Michael Saylor's presentation in Nashville this past year, where he said, look, over the next 21 years, from 2024 to 2045, we project that Bitcoin's going to grow annually at around 30%. Right? Obviously, there will be dips, but when you look back, it will be growing around 30%. There's not going to be any dips in this DCA hypothetical strategy, so you're not going to be able to take advantage of those. And we'll never miss a week buying Bitcoin. If you're starting to DCA, whether you're buying daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, you want to find a cadence and stick to it. And we're also not going to worry about taxes as we're stacking and not selling. Taxes would only come into account whether you have short-term or long-term if we were to sell. Finally, I know that all of these assumptions are ridiculous, but it helps to paint the picture of how long it will take to DCA 0.1 Bitcoin. Let's get right into it. Sorry, I know this wasn't the most exciting slide. 250 weekly. It would take you 36 weeks. So if you started in March of 2025 on March 1st, and you started DCAing weekly, and the price stayed, remember the price is at 90,000, you would be able to get that 0.1 Bitcoin by November 8th, 2025, and your average buy would be 0.00278 BTC. This is pretty good. This is about $1,000 a month. And if you go back to episode 15, I talk about how most people definitely don't have this money liquid, which is why it becomes so hard. Remember the ice cream truck, it's moving away from you. If you think about $100 weekly, it would take you about 102 weeks or 23.6 months. In 2025, you would accumulate about 0.04 Bitcoin. In 2026, you would get about 0.04 Bitcoin. And then finally, you would get 0.0039 Bitcoin in 2027. And this would take 23.6 months or 102 weeks. This still seems super doable. And once again, it is using the assumption that Bitcoin is increasing annually at 30%, but this still seems like something that's definitely within reach should Bitcoin follow these prices. Finally, at $50 a week, you'll see that it takes 6 years, which is a long time. Because remember, even though, well, I guess we should use 100. Between 100 and 50, you would think, okay, if it takes 102 weeks, if I drop my DCA down to 50, maybe it will take 204 weeks. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it works, because it's not halving when the amount of Bitcoin or the price of Bitcoin in fiat terms is going to be increasing annually at that 30%, right? So that's the ice cream truck speeding up. So it's not just going to be 204 weeks. It's going to be 319 weeks. It will take you about 6 years, 1 month, and you have the breakdown on the screen, but the average biweekly will be 0.0003761. And if you started on March 1st, 2025, you would get your last buy on April 12th, 2031. 6 years. It takes a while, right? You want to start to get that money in earlier with a little bit heavier, so that way you're not chasing the ice cream truck, because that ice cream truck, remember, is moving away from you. Finally, $10 in weekly DCA. When I was asking this to ChatGPT, going back and forth, ChatGPT basically broke. It was like, no, that's just impossible. It says accumulating 0.1 BTC with a $10 weekly DCA while Bitcoin appreciates at 30% annually would take more than 100 years. I think the final number was like 125 years, making it practically impossible under these conditions for any person to possibly do that, because likely anyone who's starting to buy on March 1st, 2025 is an adult, probably more than 18 years old, and is probably not going to live over 100 or 125 years from that point. So you can see the ice cream truck totally sped up and it's moving away. So I wanted to leave a final comparison here. This is a good visual. You'll see that the $50 takes 319 weeks. The $100 takes 102 weeks. The $250 only takes 36 weeks. Putting that into longer time period, the $50 would take 6+ years, and the 100 is less than 2 years, and the 250 is less than 1 year. And then you also have the amount of Bitcoin you would be DCAing there. As you can see, the ice cream truck is moving farther away. So whenever you can get money in, if you're watching this and you're like, okay, I think I can do $100 a week. If the Bitcoin price is lower than 90,000 when you're watching this, you can get ahead of that timeline of 2 years, or, I think it was like 23 and a half months. If it's lower than the 90K, and you're going to be able to do it every single week for those, I think it was 23 and a half months. So it was like 106 weeks or something like that. Point being, it's very, very difficult unless you're going to start obviously putting more money in. If you're able to DCA $250 a week and Bitcoin price more or less stays where it is right now, or where the assumption is around 90,000, you're going to be able to get that done in under a year, which is really quite impressive, because remember, there's only 4.5 million wallets or less, I think, that have 0.1 Bitcoin or more. And finally, this is an image I've showed a good amount of times here on Future Signal, but it's like, as the FOMO increases, because the price increases, the digital scarcity increases, and that just goes around. Oh, there's not enough Bitcoin, let me buy a bunch, therefore the price increases, and then the FOMO increases, and then let me buy a bunch, and then the amount of Bitcoin that's available goes down. And that is why it is not easy to get 0.1 Bitcoin, and why 99% of the people on the planet don't own it today and probably never will. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please go ahead and subscribe. Be sure to follow us also across socials at Future Signal Pod, and feel free to leave a comment about what type of Bitcoin content you would want to hear from in the future. I was going to do in this episode what it would look like for $1,000 a week or $500 a week, but obviously, as you can imagine, it just got so truncated so quick, because if you're using the assumption that 0.1 Bitcoin is $90,000, well, $9,000 goes quite quick if you're putting in 500 every week, or you're putting in even 1,000 every week. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see everyone next time.